In the early morning hours of November 5th, 2005, the luxury cruise ship, the Seabourn Spirit, found itself under attack by pirates in the waters off the coast of Somalia. But the Somali bandits were successfully repelled by a relatively new and formidable defensive weapon, a long-range acoustic device, or LRAD. Manufactured by the LRAD Corporation, this sonic device can, when focused on a target, produce a piercing sound that can exceed 150 decibels, enough to cause temporary blindness, nausea, and permanent hearing loss.
The U.S. Army used sonic weapons in Iraq. They're used in crowd control. There are certain types of low rumbles and signals that will affect a person. They make you feel sick.
The LRAD is currently used by law enforcement, the military, and private security, and is considered the ultimate in sonic weaponry. But is the LRAD really a 21st century invention? Or is there evidence that similar audio weapons existed in ancient times? Approximately 17 miles northeast of Jerusalem lies the ancient ruins of the city of Jericho. Here, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of settlements dating back to 9000 BC. According to the Hebrew Bible, Jericho is believed to be where God spoke to Joshua, the successor to Moses, and instructed him to march around the walled city once every 6 days with 7 priests carrying ram's horns, and followed by the Ark of the Covenant, the golden chest containing the 10 Commandments. Then, on the 7th day, under orders by God, Joshua and the Israelites marched around the perimeter of the city one last time. But this time, they blew the ram's horns. The walls of Jericho fell, and the city was sacked.
In the Old Testament, you see very clear descriptions in Joshua 6 about the shofar, which is described as a trumpet that was used in the Battle of Jericho to actually bring the walls down.
To religious scholars, the collapse of Jericho's walls was a miracle. To most modern-day scientists and historians, the destruction was most probably caused by an earthquake. But could it have been something else? Could the Israelites have possessed advanced sound wave technology? If so, where did it come from?
In the scriptures, we have a fascinating story about the fall of the walls of Jericho. Armies were told to circle the wall repeatedly and then finally blow their horns, and down came the walls. And we know there was a powerful presence, the Ark of the Covenant. This mysterious sacred item was with them at all times, which of course was part of the event and part of the fall of the walls of Jericho.
The idea that some kind of sonic weapon was used to destroy these huge, thick, ancient walls to allow the Israelites to basically take over that city is a fascinating one. So what kind of technology were they using? It sounds utterly fantastic to us that they could have had some kind of advanced alien technology. It's clearly what they're describing.
There is little doubt that the Ark of the Covenant was a weapon. It was described as a weapon. Famously, when the Israelites crossed over into Canaan, they had to pass by Jericho. And it could be that there was some technology. We do not know what that technology was, but there was clearly an association between the Ark and the falling down of the walls, and that's the reason that the Ark was sent around the periphery of the city.
According to many ancient astronaut theorists, Moses and the Israelites acquired a supernatural source of energy at Mount Sinai. This powerful energy source was later contained in the Ark of the Covenant and would have provided the kind of power necessary to amplify Joshua's horns and make them into a powerful sonic weapon.
What's interesting about the Battle of Jericho is that this particular use of the shofar clearly seems to be the same thing that we're seeing with particle beam technology, death ray technology, thunderbolt technology. It very clearly seems that once again we have an extraterrestrial technology that the ancient people had at the ready that they could use when needed for military campaigns.
The Andes Mountains, Peru. Here, 12 miles north of Puma, Punku, lie the murky waters of Lake Titicaca, the largest lake in South America. According to local legends, the god Viracocha rose up from the depths of this lake to create the sun, the stars, and mankind.
Legend states that Viracocha, the great creator god of the Inca and the prehistoric civilization of that area, emerged from Lake Titicaca. He went to Tiwanaku and brought civilization to that part of the world. He then went to Puma Punku, and this is where he said he made men and women from stone and took them to the four corners of the earth to spread their seed.
The Spanish conqueror asked the Inca, the people living there, including the king of the Inca, what is this Puma Punku? And they all said, it's not us, it's not our forefather who made this. This were made by the gods in one single night. Usually a king is proud about what his people did, about the precision and so on. In that case, the chief and the people said, no, it was not us. It was the gods who made it.
One of the legends of Puma Punku states that it was built by a race of giants in one night after a great cataclysm and flood had destroyed the whole area. But what's really interesting is that who were these giants? Where did they come from? Was it Viracocha and his band of followers, or was it some other beings from some other place?
One of the earliest chronicles that we have in regards to Puma Punku talks about that these giant platforms were moved through the air by the sound of a trumpet. They basically floated into place. So do we have some type of sound technology here? And the answer is a potential yes.
Might the legends of giants and stones floating through the air have been inspired by some sort of mysterious events in the distant past? Or were they the result of alien beings visiting Earth in prehistoric times, as ancient astronaut theorists believe?
Now I come with a speculation. Extraterrestrials arrive, the spaceship stands in orbit. Only a smaller space vehicle comes down like a space shuttle. So, just to protect their instruments, they make overnight, with their technology, what we call a base camp. Of course made out of stones found on Earth, because you don't transport granite or diorite from another solar system. And then they disappear. But the wall of their base camp is still there. Now the natives come. They see these ruins. They touch it with their fingers. They say, look at this, it's so smooth, it's so sharp. The gods did it. The place becomes a holy place. And now the natives start to construct temples, altars in honor of the gods. So you have two technologies. One was an extraterrestrial technology, and the other was the humans with their altars and their temples.
Luxor, Egypt. Here, along the east bank of the Nile River, lie the archaeological remains of the vast Karnak temple complex, dating to the 32nd century BC. With its numerous structures, including great halls, obelisks, and an avenue of sphinxes, Karnak represents the combined achievement of many generations of Egypt's ancient builders.
When one travels to Luxor and gazes upon the Karnak temple, we see large pillars, oversized obelisks, and what's very amazing about this area is that it's one of the few places where over 30 pharaohs contributed to its sheer size and wealth of knowledge over a vast period of time.
For centuries, archaeologists and scholars have considered Karnak to be one of the most dramatic examples of the remarkable technological ability of early man. But do the construction techniques used in building these incredible monuments reveal evidence of something more, something not of this earth?
When we start looking at hieroglyphs, we are amazed as to how beautiful and how carefully they have been carved. The technology which we see is clearly of a perfection which is beautiful and almost makes our heart cry whenever you come face to face with it.
Experts believe the most impressive evidence of advanced machining can be found on Karnak's tall, four-sided tapering monuments called obelisks.
The obelisk is carved with the same inscriptions on four sides, and they're all exactly the same, and they're beautifully cut and articulated hieroglyphs into this red granite stone.
We would look at it today and say it had to be some sort of machine that carved these things out. For example, there were slots. They were only 0.14 inches wide, ½ inch deep. When you look inside, you can see the bottom of them were made by a rotating tool. So this was a tool that punched in, came out, stepped down, punched in, came out. The human hand, no matter how good you are, can never do that. The tool marks themselves, the precision, the depth, the rotating impressions that were made were not done by hand. Some of those were so precisely engraved as to require machine tools to do it. The toolkit that we see that the ancient Egyptians were supposed to use, there's no way that any of those tools could produce the results that we saw.
To many scholars, the apparent precision used in the construction of the obelisks at Karnak suggests a 21st century level of expertise.
Precision is what our civilization is built on. To craft something to within 2/10,000ths of an inch or 1/1000th of an inch is quite common today because that tolerance or that precision is necessary and it has purpose.
But how can we explain such precision in ancient construction?
If you look at the Ramses statue, it is so perfect that you wonder how this was even done with allegedly primitive tools, because today we could only do this with machines.
So the way we check the symmetry of the Ramses statue is to take two images of the same photographs, make transparencies, and compare the left to the right. We flip it over and bring it over the original, and as we can see, we have perfect match. The ancient Egyptians were very skilled at working granite. I cannot see how they could have created what they created with the tools that are commonly accepted to have been in the ancient Egyptians' toolbox, such as copper chisels, or stone chisels, wooden mallets, stone balls.
But if, as many historians and archaeologists contend, the ancient builders did not possess the equivalent of modern tools, How were these monuments built with such mathematical precision? Perhaps the answer can be found by comparing an example of ancient sculpture with one made by more modern methods.
We can compare the aluminum model, the face machine, the striations coming down the face with the striations coming down the face of the statue of Karnak in Egypt. And also the tool marks, so where we see above the eyebrow, the dig-in right there, where it kind of shows us what kind of tools or the shape of the tools that they used. So the elements that bring this machining to ancient statue are not just the symmetry, but also the geometry, the precision, and the tool marks. And we have all three elements in modern machining and ancient statuary. It's an enormously difficult thing to do by hand without introducing some mechanical assistance. Seems to me to be impossible.
But if the tool marks seen on the Ramses statue appear identical to those made by modern methods, wouldn't it prove that the ancient builders had access to machines, and perhaps even electricity?
They allegedly did not have electricity, power tools. Supposedly they didn't have diamond saws. But yet, they're doing things that would require precision work, precision tools. So where did they get those things? How could they have had these advanced machining tools that we've only just acquired ourselves today in our civilization? So one answer would have to be they've gotten it from ancient aliens.
In the center of the temples at Tiwanaku lie the ruins of a stone arch called the Gateway of the Sun. Cut and shaped from a single andesite stone weighing more than 10 tons, archaeologists believe the 10-foot-tall, 13-foot-wide megalith was once the gateway leading to Puma Punku.
The Gateway of the Sun is probably the entrance, or one of the entrances, to the Puma Punku temple. And as such, it's very important because this is how the people of Tiwanaku conducted their ritual, by funneling people through increasingly smaller gateways and stairways to more and more sacred precincts.
On the upper portion of the arch, intricate carvings can be found of nearly 50 winged beings on either side of what is believed to be the great creator god Viracocha. Interpretations of the engravings suggest they refer to a calendar describing a time as far back as 27,000 BC.
So here we are at the famous Gate of the Sun with Viracocha right in the middle, holding two scepters, surrounding by birdmen.
That's a common depiction in ancient societies, is a man who's able to fly. That would have probably been an interpretation by the native people of someone coming from the sky or from the heavens.
It's part of our idea, too, that some giant airship that was a factory with power tools and power saws and routers and drills just landed here and began processing these giant blocks of stone, and then ultimately created Puma Punku.
It seems like the whole complex was some kind of technological kind of factory. And if my research is correct, it looks like they were using it to create energy of some sort. So what some people suggest is that they were using electricity and power tools, which sounds incredible when we think about it because they're a modern invention. But actually, if you look at the quality of the stonework, you have to admit something like that was going on there.
When you look at the complexity of Puma Punku, the huge platforms, the interlocking blocks that was made into what they thought were indestructible walls,
What you could have is the kind of perfectly made granite spaceport that extraterrestrials would want.